Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. All right. Okay. So welcome to the weekly current affairs class. And we are going to first begin discussing about the draft science, technology and innovation policy, which is a very important policy for your prelims as well as mains examination. So the first topic we are beginning is draft science, technology and innovation policy. I would really appreciate if you make the flow charts along with me. All right. After every slide that I'll be changing, I will be giving you sufficient time to, either take the snapshot or just write down anything that is pending there. So that is STIP. That is Science and Technology and Innovation Policy. It is a draft that has been prepared and it has been now under feedback from the public as what can be done. Can anyone tell me how many science and technology innovation policies have been there? Yes, Ayush, there was no. How many science and technology innovation policies have been there so far? Which one will be this policy? What will be the number? Can anyone tell me? This will be the 5th policy. Remember this. This is the draft of the 5th policy about science and technology and innovation in India. All right. Okay. The main thrust of this policy, or you can say the main focus of this policy is to promote a spirit of science and technology as well as innovation, is to promote science, technology and innovation, STI. STI stands for science, technology and innovation, not just in scientific community, but also ordinary population. Even in the ordinary people of India, the policy is aiming to inculcate a scientific spirit. This is a very important development in this policy, that science, technology and innovation related spirit is to be infused even among the ordinary people of India. There will be many features, all right? There are certain features of this science and technology innovation policy that overlap directly with this particular aim and objective of the science and technology innovation policy 2021. All right? Before we go ahead, we will be looking into certain dimensions of this policy. The first, we are going to look into the philosophical basis of this policy. That is, what is the philosophical basis of the policy? Second, we'll be discussing about the main features of this policy, and thirdly, we'll be discussing about the recommendations that are there related to this policy. So these are the 3 dimensions that we'll be covering with respect to science and technology innovation policy. The first, the philosophical basis of this policy, कि इस policy किन philosophies पे based है? On what philosophies this policy is based upon? In the mains examination, the question may be asked. In the mains examination, the question may be asked as what is the philosophical underpinnings of the new science and technology innovation policy. इन्हीं philosophical basis के ऊपर features हैं इस policy के that we are going to discuss now, and to implement this policy certain recommendations have been made in this policy document. That is all what we have to cover now. So you may take the snapshot of this diagram or flow chart, and then we are going to begin with the philosophical basis of the new science and technology innovation policy. All right. Yes, आयुष, फिलोसॉफिकल बेसिस का मतलब है कि ये पॉलिसी का जो इस पॉलिसी के पीछे जो बेसिक आइडिया है वो क्या चीज है, दैट इज द फिलोसॉफिकल बेसिस एज व्हाट विल बी द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर्स ऑफ दिस policy, what ideas those features are going to present. So let us now look into the philosophical basis of the policy, that is the draft Science Technology Innovation Policy 2021. It has been found out that the previous 4 science and technology innovation policies, the previous 4 science and technology innovation policies, they were top down in their orientation. They were top down in orientation. What do you mean by a top down approach? देखो, टॉप डाउन अप्रोच का मतलब क्या होता है? A group of few experts, a group of few experts, they sit and they formulate a policy according to what they think should be good for the people. All right. Yes, Aditya, that's right. It is not inclusive. All right. The previous 4 science and technology innovation policies, they were top down in their approach. Only a group of few experts used to delineate the policy guidelines on which this policy was to be implemented, what things were to be provided to the people. Here, there is no evidence-based decision making. There is not much of evidence-based decision making taking place. There is no decentralization of decision making. These were the shortcomings of the previous 4 science and technology innovation policies. But this time they are trying to make the science and technology innovation policy STIP, that is the 5th STIP, they are planning to make it purely evidence driven. That is, for every recommendation that they are making, they will be presenting evidences in support of such guidelines. Second, it is bottom up. It is bottom up. That is, every person who is getting, or every strata of the population which is getting impacted by this policy, they are asked to provide recommendations. Everyone who is going to be impacted by this policy framework, they are providing their inputs कि हमारी जो 5th साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेशन पॉलिसी है वो किस तरह की होनी चाहिए. What should be the basis of, what should be the key inputs in the 5th science and technology innovation policy. So this policy is evidence driven. This policy is bottom up, that is, every strata of population being impacted is asked to provide inputs and recommendations. It will make our science and technology innovation policy inclusive. It is going to make it more reality oriented and more beneficial than a top down policy, which was the case with the previous 4 science and technology innovation policies. Then this policy must be interactive. This policy must be interactive. That is, there must be dynamism in this policy. It must have a robust governance mechanism that includes periodic reviews, evaluation, feedbacks, and adaptation. It is interactive. That is, it must involve feedbacks about the implementation of the policy. It must involve regular evaluation of the policy, and it must involve adaptation or any changes in due course of implementation of this policy. So this policy must not be static. All right, it must not be static. Rather, this policy is going to be dynamic. New things can be added to this policy according to the demand. Yes, participative, that's right. New things can be added in this policy document according to the Indian realities. It will not be a static document. ये सिर्फ दिशा निर्देश नहीं होगी. This policy is going to amend itself in course of implementation of this policy. This entire policy, all right, take a snapshot. I'm changing the slide then. All right. Aman, I always encourage you to make flow charts along with me. When you are making flow charts, you are not just writing anything on the paper, you are imprinting the words and the ideas behind the notes right in your head. Right? So I always encourage you to make flow charts along with me in the class. All right. And if you are not keeping up the pace of making the flow charts, you can take a snapshot at the end. So let's go ahead now. The next important philosophical underpinning is the vision in this policy. The vision of this policy or science and technology innovation policy is simple, that it wants to make India among the top 3 scientific superpowers in the next decade to come. So the vision of this science, technology and innovation policy is that it wants to make India to stand among top 3 scientific superpowers in the decade to come. यानी आने वाले एक दशक के अंदर ये साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी इनोवेशन पॉलिसी हमें दुनिया की 3 सबसे बड़ी साइंटिफिक ताकतों में शुमार करने के लिए काम करेगी. ऑलराइट, इट वांट टू क्रिएट, ऑलराइट, और ये कैसे होगा, हाउ इट विल बी पॉसिबल, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हैं. That how the science and technology innovation policy will be able to achieve its vision of making India stand among 3 top scientific superpowers in the decade to come. Number 1, attract, nurture and retain the talent. सबसे पहले attract, nurture and retain the talent. जो भी आपके साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में पीपल हैं, दे शुड बी रिटेन्ड इन साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी. ऐसा नहीं कि आप आईआईटी से ग्रेजुएट हो रहे हो और फिर एमबीए करने भाग रहे हो. आप आईआईटी से ग्रेजुएट हो रहे हो एंड देन यू आर गोइंग टू सम अदर कंट्री and decorating their technological force. Am I right? So they want to retain the people, they want to attract the people and nurture them in the field of science and technology as well as innovation. All right. So this is the first way through which this vision will be attained, that is attracting, nurturing and retaining the talent. All right. Then second, they want to go for doubling. They want to go for doubling the number of full-time researchers. Number of full-time researchers in the field of science, technology, engineering, all right, mathematics and medicine. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics and medicine. Then next, third, improving gross expenditure in research and design. Improving gross domestic expenditure in R&D. This is known as GERD. You will increase GERD, gross domestic expenditure on research and design. That is, more and more infusion of capital will be there. The government will start spending more money upon the development of science and technology in India. Fourth, by private participation and funding. It will encourage private participation and funding, इसके through the vision of the science and technology innovation policy of the country is to be materialized. The vision is that India is to be made to be stand among the top 3 scientific countries in the world in next 1 decade. And how we'll do this? Number one, by attracting, nurturing, and retaining the talent in the field of science and technology. Second, we are going to double the number of the researchers, full-time researchers in the field of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. We will improve the government expenditure in the field of science and technology, that is improving gross domestic expenditure on research and designing. And lastly, by incentivizing the private participation and funding in the field of science and technology. And the last policy framework, all right, philosophical basis, sorry. So abhi humne philosophical basis kare, let's summarize it quickly. The first philosophical basis is कि जैसे पहली 4 science technology innovation policies थी, they were top down. That is, a close group of experts used to sit down and lay down the guidelines कि इंडिया में science and technology ऐसे होनी चाहिए. But for the first time, this time the philosophical underpinning was to make a policy which was more realistic, number one, which was more informed on the basis of evidences and inputs provided by the people in the various hierarchy. All right, so we wanted to make our policy evidence driven. We wanted to make our policy bottom up, participatory. All right, it is participatory decision making or policy formulation. And then this policy should not be static, that we have given it once, it is not to be amended and it is to be followed. ये पॉलिसी डायनेमिक है. Depending upon the things that we discover in due course of implementation of this policy will be regularly provided a feedback. This policy will be regularly reviewed, evaluated, as well as it will be changed according to the demands. It will be a dynamic policy, not a static policy. Then we looked into that this policy has a vision that India should be made to stand among the top 3 countries of the world in terms of scientific superpower, and these 4 ways through which we are going to attain this vision. And the last philosophical basis of this policy is that this policy must work upon the strategic mechanisms to make India Atmanirbhar. This policy, Atmanirbhar, ये जो policy है, it must work continuously through strategic mechanisms to make India self-sufficient or Atmanirbhar. This is why we require this policy. We require this policy because so far the policies have been top down. So far the policies were not evidence driven. So far the policies have been a big failure. We require this policy to achieve Atmanirbharta. We require this policy to make India stand among the top 3 scientific nations by the end of this decade, by 2030. This is why we need this policy, or this is the philosophical basis of this policy. Is this clear to everyone? Is it all right? Okay, hold on. Is it only government intended to do with government university, private? देखिए आयुष, the full form, Anjali, full form of STEMM is Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics and Medicine. All right, Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics and Medicine. All right, let me, if any one of you want to take a snapshot, quickly take this snapshot and then we are moving ahead. ठीक है everyone? So yes, the thing is this, हमारे देश में देखो, बिफोर वी गो अहेड मैं आपको एक बहुत ही क्लियर कट रीजन बताता हूँ. सी, I cleared my IIT in 2009 and then I chose to pursue my BSMS from Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, Mohali. Let me tell you why we are backward in science. Before we go ahead, all right, before we go ahead, why we are backward in science? India is a backward country in terms particularly related to scientific discipline. The reason is that we do not get challenges. We do not get challenges. हमारे देश में challenge देने का concept ही खत्म है. In the countries like the United States of America, over there the industry, all right, over there the industry, what does it do? The industry goes for providing problems to the scientific community. साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी को प्रॉब्लम्स प्रोवाइड करती है वहां की इंडस्ट्री, और साथ में इन प्रॉब्लम्स को सॉल्व करने के लिए फंडिंग देती है. Am I right? But in our country, there is no concept like this. There is a very big gap between the industry and the academia. There is a very big gap between the industry and the academia. All the universities in our country, they are running either upon the government expenditure. In the United States or any developed country for that matter, the universities, they do not depend upon the government funding. Okay, they must be receiving some part from the government, but majority of their funding comes from the industry. Over there, the faculty do not have a permanent tenure. हमारे देश में क्या है, एक बार आप प्रोफेसर लगे गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज में, उसके बाद आपको कोई नहीं निकाल सकता है ना, जब तक कोई बहुत ही वाहियात हरकत ना कर दो आप, you cannot be removed. Even if you do not publish any research article, you will not be removed. There is a security of tenure. But in the countries like the Western industrial nations, if you have funding, if you have project, if your project gets funding, you will sustain as a professor in the university, otherwise go out. Am I right? That is why they are scientifically very advanced. Over there, the people believe in discovering new things because the challenge is put up by the industry. But in our society, in our country, security of tenure, lackadaisical attitude, mismatch between the industry and the academia and the intellectual class, they have resulted into a complete disjoint, and science and technology is not being pursued in the spirit it should be. If you talk about the number of patents that are released from India, they are far less than that are released from China or any Western industrial nation. Despite we having one of the largest workforce in science and technology field, because we do not go for innovation. Innovation ke liye you need funding and you need a problem to work upon. We go for reproducing the same result which has already been published in the Western countries. What good is that? And it has given a perception that the Indian people, they are very good at reproducing the results rather than coming out with a new result. This is what is to be targeted through this Science, Technology and Innovation Policy 2021, whose draft has been just prepared. That's correct, Deepak. जो आपके previous, all right, जो आपके previous जो government की policies हैं, like creation of techno parks in the IITs. What techno parks? Techno parks are just one of the, since you are from IIT, you can relate it there. Let me tell you, there is incubation centers that have come up. All right, under Atal Innovation Mission, incubation centers have come up in the various top research institutes of the country. Let me tell you, hardly 4 or 5 projects are running in one incubation center. Most of the incubation centers are either dysfunctional or non-functional at all. Wastage of public space and public money. All right, you will have to proactively build a bridge between the academia, the science people, the engineering people, and the industry. The day industry starts engaging with Indian science and technology, mark my words, India is going to see a leap of jump in science and technological development. We have a human capital, and that human capital has to be leveraged to promote the spirit of science and technology in India, which at this present is completely missing. All right, chaliye, let us now look into the features of this policy. Now we are going to discuss the important features. So the first important feature that I would like to discuss is that this policy is trying to promote something known as open science framework. The policy is based upon open science framework. Individual question upon open science framework may be asked in your mains examination or prelims examination. Open science framework is based upon the principle that India want to provide free access to all right. India want to provide its citizens free access to all research outcomes, free access to all research outcomes. All right, India want to provide access to its citizens, free access to all research outcomes out of public spending. जो भी गवर्नमेंट का खर्चा हुआ है, ऑलराइट, जो भी गवर्नमेंट का खर्चा हुआ है उससे जो भी रिसर्च होके जो भी आउटकम आया है, इट विल बी मेड अवेलेबल टू एवरी पर्सन इन द कंट्री. सो what is the reason? What is the reason? The reason is to create an integrative science application platform. All people who are pursuing science in the country, if they are pursuing science based on public spending, then whatever research outcome is coming, it will be made available to each and everyone in the country. So, चाहे रिसर्च आईसर में हो रहा है, चाहे रिसर्च आईआईटी कानपुर में हो रहा है, चाहे रिसर्च एनआईटी हमीरपुर में हो रहा है, चाहे रिसर्च एनआईटी जालंधर में हो रहा है, wherever the research is happening, but if it is happening out of public spending, every other institute in the country, be it government or be it private or be it any layman of the country, they will be made aware of these developments. It will integrate the country in a single science and technology platform. This is what is known as open science framework. This is open science framework. It is a very important development over the previous, all right, it is a very important development over the previous science and technology innovation policies. All right, the scientific data, scientific knowledge and the resources in the country will be provided to every member of the country, every citizen of the country. All right, I am again repeating it once. तब तक आप लोग फटाक से लिख लो. Open science framework, it is trying to provide the Indian citizens, through this the government try to provide the Indian citizens free access to all the research outcomes which have been emerged out of public spending. जो गवर्नमेंट की फंडिंग से रिसर्च हुआ है उससे जो भी आउटकम आया है, it will be shared with every institute in the country, be it private, be it public, be it schools. Everyone will be aware of what research outcome has been done. तो क्या यहाँ पे आपको कहीं पे accountability दिख रही है? Are you able to see the accountability out of this framework? Yes, because it will be made available to everyone. Accountability will be ensured. Number one. Second, originality will be ensured. मेरा रिसर्च ओरिजिनल होगा, पता चला किसी का कॉपी है तो दे कैन इजीली नो बिकॉज इट विल बी मेड ओपन इन द पब्लिक डोमेन. So accountability will be there for whatever funding you are doing, some output will be there. Yes, access to information. Jasdeep, it is access to information, and very good Monish. Yes, competition will be there. Competition will be there. Competition, healthy competition, originality and accountability, they are, and creation of an integrative science application platform, they are the intentions behind, they are the intentions behind open science framework. They are the intentions behind open science framework. This is the first characteristic feature of this policy. अरे आयुष, रिसर्च का मतलब ये थोड़ी कि न्यूक्लियर रिसर्च या न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम या न्यूक्लियर कोड्स आपने डाल दिए, नहीं है ना. इंफॉर्मेशन विल बी प्रोवाइडेड बट दैट इंफॉर्मेशन विल देन बी क्लासिफाइड एज पब्लिक और सीक्रेट. इफ इट इज सीक्रेट वो नहीं रिलीज करनी है सर्टेनली, ठीक है ना. पता चले कि जो भी हमारे दुनिया के दुश्मन हैं उनको पता चला कि चलो न्यूक्लियर इंफॉर्मेशन वहां तो फ्रीली में फ्री मिल रही है, ले लो. ऐसा नहीं है. That's correct. That's correct, Deepak. They will be creating a central repository of all the publications, all the research work about any outcome that is out of public funding. Yes, एक central repository बनेगी. चलिए, let's go ahead now. Then, second important characteristic feature of this policy is something known as one nation, one subscription. देखिए, ये जो बात है, ये सारी की सारी जो बात हमने करी है, ये बात डोमेस्टिक रिसर्च की है. That whatever domestic research is being carried out, it will be made available to everyone, resulting into integrative science application platform being created in India. But you know that there is global research is also going. So now, to provide every citizen of the country access to scholarly articles worldwide, to provide access to every citizen for scholarly articles worldwide, India will subscribe. India will subscribe to international journals. Will subscribe to international journals. And this subscription will be available to every citizen of the country, no matter if he or she is a scientist or a common layman. अभी क्या होता है? How things are done now? How things are done at present or now? So let me tell you. Yes, Gifty Sahib, bilkul. Let me tell you what happens these days. So there is, like for example, there is IIT Delhi, there is IISER Mohali, let's call there is NIT Jalandhar. Suppose they want to subscribe any journal, they have to pay an annual fees, and the students from this institute alone can go for accessing those documents. Similarly, IISER Mohali will subscribe to a certain set of journals. NIT Jalandhar is going to subscribe to certain set of journals. And for this subscription, they have to pay individual fees. What the government is going to do? The government is going to provide every citizen subscription. Everybody will be open to go and read any scholarly articles और उसका खर्चा government देगी. अब ये annual fee देने की जरूरत नहीं है. The government will directly pay to the journals about Indians accessing the information. Journal को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Journal को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. Published article है. Journal की तो उल्टा कमाई हो रही है. Am I right? Because the more the number of people they will visit, the more will be the income. So this system that they will be introducing, that the Indian government subscribing to all the leading journals uniformly for the scientists and ordinary people alike, this is going to cost more, but then it is also going to provide every individual opportunity to read the quality scholarly articles that will make the Indian more informed about the current research that is going. Am I right? So scientific spirit will be tackled and Indians will be provided to quality science material worldwide. Indians will be provided quality science material from across the globe, from worldwide. From worldwide, Indians will be able to subscribe to the important information. No, Shivanjali, what government is going to do, government will say कि like for example India का कोई भी IP address है, the IP address from India are X number of IP address. If anybody is accessing any journal और उसका IP address India के IP address के साथ मैच कर रहा है, he will be able to obtain the information about this journal. That's it. Alright? अगर नेचर से कोई डाउनलोड कर रहा है तो वो नेचर पे जाके क्लिक करेगा, अगर कोई साइंस जर्नल से डाउनलोड कर रहा है वो साइंस पे जाके क्लिक करेगा. बट इफ इज फ्रॉम इंडिया, इफ द आईपी इज फ्रॉम इंडिया, अप्रूव्ड आईपी फ्रॉम इंडिया, वो इजीली एक्सेस कर सकते हैं. पहले सिर्फ आईआईटी दिल्ली वाले आईआईटी दिल्ली की सब्सक्रिप्शन देख सकते थे, आइजर मोहाली वाले आइजर मोहाली की सब्सक्रिप्शन देख सकते थे. प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस, इससे सबसे बड़ा फायदा प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस को होगा. प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस कैन नॉट अफोर्ड दीज सब्सक्रिप्शन फीस, बहुत हाई फीस होती है. प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस कैन नॉट अफोर्ड दीज सब्सक्रिप्शन फीस, इसलिए वो कभी भी साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में इतना एक्सेल नहीं कर पाते. इसीलिए वो साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में एक्सेल नहीं कर पाते. जब गवर्नमेंट ये खर्चा उठाएगी तो स्पिरिट ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट इवन इन द प्राइवेट इंस्टीट्यूशंस विल पिक अप. डू यू गेट दिस पॉइंट? No, Jasdeep, we do not need that. Yes. All paid journals now will be free. The government will be spending the money on it. Can we go ahead? Chale aage. All right. Then the next characteristic feature, or the last or the third characteristic feature, is that the science, technology and innovation policy, it is aiming at what is known as the large mission mode projects. Large mission mode projects will be targeted in this policy. These mission mode projects will be industry, or you can say industrial collaborations will be there. These industries will give mission mode projects to the science practicing institutions in the country. Funding will be provided by the industry. Some funding will be provided by the industry, some will be by the government. Yes, to everyone. That's right. देखो, अब टेररिस्ट इस इंफॉर्मेशन को एक्सप्लोर करेंगे क्या, इन सब के लिए सेकेंडरी कुछ ना कुछ इन्होंने चेक डालने हैं. दिस इज जस्ट अ पॉलिसी. इस पॉलिसी के बेसिस पे बहुत सारे इनिशिएटिव्स लिए जाएंगे, उन इनिशिएटिव्स को देखना है अभी. ऑलराइट. यूं तो अब आप बोलो कि एक साइंटिस्ट हो सकता है वो किसी गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज में एडमिशन लेकर अगर एक्सेस कर ले तो वो भी तो पॉसिबिलिटी है. अब आप इनफाइनाइट पॉसिबिलिटीज मेरे ऊपर फेंक के मारोगे तो मैं थोड़ी जस्टिफाई करूंगा. एम आई राइट? There will be checks and balances. Don't worry about that. और अगर किसी साइंटिस्ट ने इतना ही पढ़ना था, अगर किसी टेररिस्ट ने इतनी ही साइंस पढ़नी थी तो वो साइंस से क्यों नहीं पढ़ लिया, वो टेररिस्ट क्यों बना? Am I right? ठीक है. So don't worry about this. So the third important characteristic feature of this policy is that it aims at creating large mission mode projects in industrial collaborations. It will promote a spirit of science between the academia, industry and research. These three things will be collaborating under the large mission mode projects. All right? ठीक है? That's right. With these things, even a common man will be able to develop scientific temperament. Common man छोड़ो. Forget about the common man. All right? Forget about the common man. There are government colleges. All right? There are government institutions. There are private institutions. And lastly, there are common men. तीन चीज लो. All right? Common man. अभी यहाँ पे अगर आप देखो, ये टॉप ऑटोनोमस इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, आईआईटीज आइजर की तरह, आईआईएससी की तरह. ऑलराइट? एंड अदर गवर्नमेंट कॉलेजेस, प्राइवेट कॉलेजेस एंड कॉमन मैन. ये हमारी साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी का 98% हिस्सा है. एंड दीज टॉप ऑटोनोमस इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर जस्ट 2% ऑफ द टोटल साइंटिफिक कम्युनिटी. 98% scientific community is in ordinary government colleges. They are in ordinary private colleges. and only 2% are in the autonomous top institutions. They have access to quality research material. They have access to quality research material, and they are just doing routine science. आज से 10 साल पहले जो इन्होंने किताब पढ़ी थी वही आज पढ़ाई जा रही है. यहां पे रेगुलर अपडेशन हो रहा है. They are the people who are driving science in India as of now. What if we go for exploiting this potential? If we exploit this potential, India can rightly stand among the top 3 scientific nations around the world. That's quite possible, achievable. We will not call it over ambitious policy. It is only that we have to identify how we have to approach. Is this clear, everyone? देख लिया? All right, ठीक है. Many of, see, I am not pinpointing any particular institution in particular, but many of you must have experienced, if you have done engineering, आपने कई ऐसे इंस्ट्रूमेंट सिर्फ किताबों में देखे होंगे, आपने कभी अपनी लैब में नहीं देखा होगा. If you have done science, many of the experiments you have just read in the book, you have never performed it in any kind of laboratory. It's a common situation. It's a common situation, and that cannot be denied. Now it makes certain recommendations as well for improving the scientific temperament in the country. Let us look at the recommendations. The first recommendation is that it want to, all right, to provide inclusion in the field of science. To provide inclusion in the field of science, it talks about introduction of Indian version of what is known as Athena Swan Charter. Athena Swan Charter. Jasdeep, not in this scenario, because there will be very less people interested in providing any kind of feedback. Don't worry about it. It's not going to change much. यहाँ पे आज जो करेंगे लगभग ऐसे की ऐसी ये पॉलिसी अडॉप्ट हो जाएगी. Don't worry. All right. That's why I am taking the draft as well. Let me tell you an example. Draft information policy. UPSC asked the question upon even the draft information policy. Getting my point? They can ask a question upon the draft science technology innovation policy, because these policies are exclusive policies which are generally adopted even in their draft form. Okay? Now, to provide inclusion, they have recommended an Indian version of Athena Swan Charter. What is Athena Swan Charter? Athena Swan Charter is nothing but it is a global policy framework. ये प्रीलिम्स का क्वेश्चन बन सकता है. What is Athena Swan Charter? Athena Swan Charter is a global policy framework to ensure gender neutrality. Athena Swan Charter is a global policy framework to ensure gender neutrality. Gender neutrality in what? Gender neutrality in the field of higher education and research. In the field of higher education and research. In the field of higher education and research. All right. Particularly the field of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. Particularly in the field of STEM. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. This is Athena Swan Charter. इसी की तर्ज पे हमें एक इंडियन वर्जन भी निकालना पड़ेगा. किसका? Athena Swan Charter का. हाँ, that's right. UK STEM policy कह सकते हो. ठीक है. That's right. adopted by Britain. Correct. Athena Swan Charter, but today it has become a global framework. So they have recommended. All right. So based on this Athena Swan Charter, the STIP, it has recommended that the women at least 30% seats in decision making, evaluation committees, evaluation committees, around 30% seats in decision making evaluation committees in the higher research institutions must be given to women. Women must be given a representation of 30% in the decision making evaluation bodies, all right, evaluation committees, selection committees of higher educational institutions. Then they also talk about, all right, then they also talk about other vulnerable groups to be given greater representations. Other vulnerable groups to be given greater representation in science and technology. Through this, you will be able to achieve inclusion and equity in science and technology in India. Inclusion and equity in the field of science and technology. Inclusion and equity will be introduced in the field of science and technology. All right. And what to say about another recommendation, and that is about developing a framework integrating. All right. Another recommendation is to develop a framework for integrating what? Academics, industry, and research facilities. Academics, industry, and research facilities. This must be the basis. I will not name the Nobel laureate, but that Nobel laureate once mocked about the Indian scientific community. He mocked about that in India, people do science without telling the other person what he or she has got or what he or she is about to publish, and people feel jealous upon the achievement of some other person, whereas in other countries people appreciate the work of other person, use that work to excel himself. But in our country there is absence of collaboration among the academicians themselves, what to talk about academics, industry, and research. So it has recommended these developments in this policy framework. Is this clear to everyone? Shashi Tharoor, correct? No, he is not a Nobel laureate. I am talking about a Nobel laureate in science. All right. Okay. This is so true, and this culture. Yes, this I am talking about the top-notch institutes of the country. It's a common picture. Top-notch institutes of the country. All right. What to say about that 98% population जिसके बारे में हमने लिखा? चलिए, let's close. I think we have discussed in detail philosophical basis of this policy. हमने अच्छे से discuss कर लिया, initiatives discuss कर लिए हैं, characteristics, features discuss कर लिए हैं, and we have discussed certain recommendations, particularly about adopting the Athena Swan Charter in Indian scenario. All right. See, open science, Aditya, how open science framework is going to be accountable? Think about this way. The government has given me a funding of 5 crore rupees, and my research will be published in public domain. My research outcome will be put in public domain. अगर मैंने उस पैसे को justify नहीं किया among the scientific community, I might not be appreciated. So now I am accountable for the money that I am spending. I am accountable for the money that I will be spending. So open science framework where the outcome of one research will be made public. Open science framework where the outcome of one research will be made public that infuses a spirit of accountability. All right. So that's about the draft science, technology, innovation policy. The next important news that was about the national infrastructure pipeline. The second topic is national infrastructure pipeline. All right, national infrastructure pipeline. So news was that the finance minister this particular week, she held a meeting to review the progress of the 34 projects under the national infrastructure pipeline that amounts to rupees 3.6 lakh crore. So the news was that the finance minister, she reviewed 34 projects under national infrastructure pipeline worth 3.6 lakh crore. ये information जरूरी नहीं है. Nobody is going to ask you this information. ठीक है? Nobody is going to ask you this information. Just for the sake of context, I have given you this information. What is more important is, what is national infrastructure pipeline? What is national infrastructure pipeline? All right. So, you know that the Prime Minister of the country or the government has a vision to make India 5 trillion US dollar economy. To make India 5 trillion US dollar economy by the year. Tell me what is the year? UPSC नहीं तो state civil services तो पूछते हैं year आपसे. Correct. So the government has a vision to make India 5 trillion US dollar economy by the year 2024-25. This 5 trillion US dollar economy, this vision will remain incomplete, and it will be completed only if we have infrastructural support. Only if we have infrastructural support to achieve this goal. Can you tell me what is the contemporary state of India's economy? अभी इंडिया what अगर इंडिया को 5 ट्रिलियन यूएस डॉलर इकोनॉमी बनाना है तो प्रेजेंटली इंडिया की टोटल वर्थ कितनी है? इंडियन इकोनॉमी की वर्थ कितनी है? 2.8, 2.7. It's all right, 2.8 billion. We are right now 2.8 billion, and we have to almost double ourselves in the next 4 or 5 years to achieve this goal of 5 trillion US dollar economy. This goal is elusive. This goal looks unachievable if we do not have infrastructural support. If we do not have infrastructural support. So, to upgrade the infrastructural support, so to upgrade the infrastructural support, the government formed a task force. Can you name the task force that recommended national infrastructure pipeline? What is the task force? So, to upgrade the infrastructural support, the government created a task force under the chairmanship of, no, it's not FATF. FATF nahi hai. The government created a task force under the chairmanship of the Economic Affairs Secretary, Atanu Chakrabarti. Very good, Mohanish. It's Atanu Chakrabarti. He is the secretary. He is the secretary to the Department of Economic Affairs. Under his chairmanship, a task force of the senior bureaucrats was created, and they recommended, all right, they recommended that you need approximately 102 lakh crore projects in 18 states. it recommended approximately 102 lakh crore worth projects in 18 states of the country. These 102 lakh crore worth projects, they were released under a scheme called National Infrastructure Pipeline. This is the answer to the mains question, that what is National Infrastructure Pipeline. So National Infrastructure Pipeline is nothing but it is a set of various infrastructural projects in the 18 states of the country that amount to 102 lakh crore rupees. This project, National Infrastructure Pipeline, was released by Atanu Chakrabarti Task Force, who is the Secretary to the Department of Economic Affairs. This project will provide the infrastructural support to upscale the Indian economy from the present 2.8 billion US dollars to 5 trillion US dollars by the year 2024-25, a vision of the incumbent government of India. This is what you have to write down about the National Infrastructure Project Pipeline. Is it clear? Is it clear? Now, there may be a question related to prelims as well. All right. There may be a question related to prelims as well, as they can ask you that which sector has the largest share of funding. Out of 102 lakh crore rupees, out of rupees 102 lakh crore, can you tell me which sector has the largest funding available? किसको सबसे ज्यादा फंडिंग मिली है? वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड. इट इज नो, ये टर्शी ये नहीं, आपको बताना है. इट इज द एनर्जी सेक्टर. Energy infrastructural projects or energy sector has got approximately 25% of the total funding. Out of 100 lakh crore, लगभग 25 लाख करोड़ आपकी energy sector में spend होंगे. That is, it will be spent in the field of power, renewable energy, power, renewable energy. All right, atomic energy, like projects. All right, petroleum and natural gas as well. Petroleum, natural gas. Then the second would supplement vision to upgrade share of natural gas to 15%. Yes, 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 it will. Second, जो second sector है वो है roads. roads के ऊपर कितना खर्चा हो रहा है? Approximately 19%. Approximately 19%. Railways, around 13%. Urban areas, में होगा urban infrastructure 16%, rural infrastructure will be 8% of the total expenditure. Then irrigation will be provided 8%. Social sector such as education, health, 3%. Social sector such as education, health, they will get 3%. All right. Digital communication and industrial expenditure, again 3%. 1% will be spent for, all right, agriculture and food processing. Agriculture and food processing, it will be mere 1%. नाउ द क्वेश्चन इज, क्या आपको ये सारा स्टैटिक्स याद करना है? नहीं, आपको याद रखना है एनर्जी का, आपको याद रखना है रोड्स का, आपको याद रखना है अर्बन एरियाज का एंड रेलवेज का. यू नीड टू रिमेंबर दीज शेयर की एनर्जी. ऑलराइट, एनर्जी टॉप 5 का सीक्वेंस पता होना चाहिए कि सबसे ऊपर है एनर्जी, फिर है रोड्स, फिर है अर्बन, फिर है रेलवेज. ऑलराइट, सीक्वेंस पता होना चाहिए, और साथ में अगर परसेंटेज पहले 4 के याद रह जाते काफी है. But if the question comes, what are the different areas which will be taken care of by the national infrastructure pipeline, then you must have a knowledge of all the various areas. Social infrastructure is also targeted, rural infrastructure targeted, urban targeted, irrigation targeted, animal and agriculture and food processing targeted. Energy is already there, right? Energy is there, roads, railways, communication is there, digital communication is there. Every sector has been covered under national infrastructure pipeline, and these infrastructure is very essential for upscaling the Indian economy from the present status of 2.8 billion to the 2.25 trillion. All right, let's go ahead now. So this is about the national infrastructure pipeline. All right, then there was a news related to Bhakti movement saint. कौन से saint थे, जल्दी बताओ. Tell me the name of the saint who was in news. Bhakti movement saint. Social sector means health and education. लिख सकते हो मोनिश, it can be. Yes, Shobita. The saint I am talking about is Basava, who is also known as Basavana, who is also known as Basaveshwara. All right. So there's a Bhakti movement saint. His name is Basava, Basaveshwara, or Basvana, whatever you want to call him. Can you tell me he belonged to Shaivism or Vaishnavism? किससे belong करते थे? Very good, Shaivism. He was a Bhakti movement saint of the 12th century. He was 12th century Bhakti movement saint who belonged to the Shaivism sect of Bhakti movement and is a prominent spiritual leader among the Lingayat sect in South India. He is a prominent guru of the Lingayat sect in Karnataka. So, this week, the Karnataka CM, Mr. Yedurappa, he started or laid down the foundation stone of an Anubhav Mandap. Anubhav Mandap at a place in Karnataka called Basav Kalyan. At Basava Kalyan. Basava Kalyan is the place from where Basava came. He spent most of his life in Basava Kalyan place, and over there this particular week the Karnataka Chief Minister Mr. Y.S. Yadurappa has started something known as Anubhav Mandap. What are Anubhav Mandap? ये भी हमें देखना है, and we have to look a little bit about the Bhakti movement Saint Basava. All right, you can expect a prelims or a mains question on this particular direction. Now, you know that the Bhakti movement was a social reform movement. So Basava is also a social reformer. He was a poet and a social reformer in the Karnataka region. He is a revered saint among the Lingayat sect, and his teachings, all right, his teachings mostly are about equal status to all. He spent his life He spent his life uplifting the status of downtrodden women in the society. He worked relentlessly for uplifting the status of downtrodden women in the society, but he worked extensively to preach equality or equal status to all. He discarded people to be discriminated on the basis of class, caste, religion, or race. All right. He gave up the sacred thread. He gave up the sacred thread. What is the name of the sacred thread? Janeyu. All right. He gave up Janeyu, which is a sacred thread, and worked for the equal status to all. Worked for equal status for all. He gave up his Janeyu and worked relentlessly for working for the upliftment of the status of all. All right. He started something known as Anubhav Mandaps. He started something known as Anubhav Mandaps. What are Anubhav Mandaps? Anubhav Mandaps are the spiritual halls. They are the spiritual halls where people from any, all right, these are the spiritual halls from where people from any origin, could ask any type of questions, चाहे वो spiritual questions हो, चाहे वो mundane या आम questions हो, कोई भी आके यहाँ पे सवाल जवाब कर सकता है. All right, the people from the Lingayat sect, they will decorate the Anubhav Mandaps and they will provide answer to the mundane and the spiritual questions of the life. All right, from any origin they can come and talk about them. There are two very prominent principles that Basava has published. All right, two prominent principles taught by Basava. What were those prominent principles? The first is called Kaya Kave Kailash. The first is Kaya Kave Kailash. That is, work is worship. Work is worship. Work is worship. That is Kaya Kave Kailash. And second is the principle of Dasoha. भैया ये याद कर लेना, यूपीएससी का फेवरेट टॉपिक है. Yes, Gurjot, wait a minute. Dasoha. Dasoha means giving back to the society. Giving back to society. You have to remember this thing. All right. Those of you who need to take the snapshot of this slide, quickly do it. All right. Take a snapshot of this page as well. Those of you who are jotting it down, you may take a snapshot of this page as well. All right. Few more additional information. Can you tell me, anyone in the class, which Bhakti saint is known for his famous works Bijak? It's a common question. Which Bhakti saint? That's good. Kabir. Kabir used to preach Bijak, जैसे कबीर के बीजक थे वैसे ही बसावा, his poems or his poetic compositions, they were called, what they were called? What were the poetic compositions? Very good, Shobita. That's right, vachanas. All right, vachanas. The poetic compositions of Basawa are called vachanas, and they are clubbed together, and that is, they are clubbed together and has been created as Vachan Sahitya. They have been clubbed together as Vachan Sahitya. Can you tell me Vachan Sahitya is in which language? Which language is there? In which language will you find the Vachan Sahityas? Kannada, very good. All right, in Kannada language, the Vachan Sahityas, which is a compilation of the Vachanas of Basawa, has been compiled together. All right. Basawa, he preached during two dynasties. He preached during two dynasties. One is known as Kalyani Chalukya. Kalyani Chalukya dynasty, and the second is Kalachuri dynasty. Kalachuri dynasty. These were the two dynasties during the time of which Basawa was present, and the last information that we have to know is that he reached his climax. He reached the pinnacle of his bhakti career. He reached his climax during the King Bijjal II. King Bijjal II. All right. He reached the climax. He reached the climax during the kingship of King Bijjal II of Kannad region. All right. And yes, the last point, information about Basawa. Information about Basawa. देखो लिंगायत्स के ऊपर क्वेश्चन पूछा हुआ है यूपीएससी ने पहले. They can ask you question this time upon Basawa. So information about Basawa, it comes from Basawa Puran. It comes from Basawa Puran. And this Basawa Puran was written by Palkuriki Somnath. Palkuriki Somnath. So Palkuriki Somnath published Basawa Puran, that gives you all the information about Basawa. And secondly, there is a contemporary of Basawa, his name is Harihar. All right. Similarly, there was a contemporary of Basawa, his name is Harihar. He has written a book called Basawa Raja Devara Ragale. Bas, काफी है. All right. Basawa Raja Devara Ragale by Harihar and Basawa Puran by Palkuriki Somnath. They are the sources of information about Basawa. They are the sources of information about Basawa. Is this clear, everyone? Shall we go ahead? Quickly take a snapshot if you haven't taken a snapshot. Previous slide. ये लो फटाफट. कोई बात नहीं श्रेयांश, एंशिएंट मीडिएवल कल्चर में थोड़ी ये प्रॉब्लम रहती है. जब आपको भक्ति मूवमेंट, इनके जो भी सेंट्स और ये नाम याद रखने हैं तो कुछ कर नहीं सकते इसमें. देखो मैं अपनी ट्रिक बताता हूँ, ठीक है. मैं अपनी ट्रिक आप लोगों के साथ शेयर करता हूँ. व्हाट आई यूज्ड टू डू, make a list of the names, make a list of the books Make a list of every damn thing that you think is really difficult to remember. वो लिस्ट अपने पास बना के रखो, कभी मौका लगे तो रिवाइज कर लो, ठीक है, नहीं तो पेपर से 7 दिन पहले उन लिस्ट को रिवाइज करना स्टार्ट कर दो. Prayas reached climax means he became very famous during King Bijal 2. Very famous during King Bijal 2. So what I used to do, I never ended up at a margin in my prelims. I shot exceptionally good marks in prelims just because I practiced elimination a lot. चलो वो बाद में बात करेंगे. But I used to prepare a good strategy. जो चीजें याद नहीं होती और एग्जाम में पूछने लायक हैं, उनकी लिस्ट बना लेता था. और 7 दिन पहले बिफोर मेंस एग्जामिनेशन आई यूज्ड टू जस्ट स्कैन थ्रू दोस शीट वंस. सो जो 7 दिन में नाम पड़े वो याद रह जाएंगे, लेकिन जो आज याद कर रहे हो वो शायद भूल जाओगे. इसलिए मेक अ लिस्ट ऑफ दोज नेम्स, किंगडम्स, वॉर्स, बैटल ऑफ व्हाट, किसमें कौन किससे लड़ा, ये लिस्ट बना के हमेशा अपने पास रखा करो. डू स्मार्ट वर्क, डू हार्ड वर्क, बट दैट हार्ड वर्क मस्ट बी स्मार्ट. नहीं तो मेहनत का काम गधा भी करता है और मेहनत का काम घोड़ा भी करता है. दोनों में से क्या बनना है, दोनों देख लो, ठीक है. सींग तो दोनों के ही नहीं होते. नहीं सूरज, अगर मैं 2020 का मेंस दे रहा होता तो मैं यहां थोड़ी होता. चल रहा है 2020 का मेंस, ठीक है. चलिए, लेट्स गो अहेड नाउ. Now we are going to talk about what is known as horizontal and vertical reservation. Horizontal and vertical reservation. Horizontal and vertical reservation. There was a case that was there in Supreme Court, and it is Saurav Yadav case. Saurav Yadav versus the state of Uttar Pradesh. In this case, the Supreme Court has settled in the debate between horizontal and vertical reservation. Before going ahead, what are vertical reservations? What is vertical reservation? When reservation is done, when reservation is provided across the social strata, when reservation is provided across the social strata based on social hierarchy, that is known as vertical reservation. That is called vertical reservation. For example, if we look at the Varna Vyavastha in India, the 4 Varnas, there are Brahmin, there are Kshatriya, there are Vaishyas, and then there are Shudras. All right. Among these, there will be some other backward classes, OBCs. Then there are Avarnas or untouchables. They have been provided reservation under the scheduled caste, and alongside there are Adivasis, which have been provided this reservation under scheduled tribe. This reservation that is provided on the basis of the social strata you belong to, one complete strata being provided similar reservation, that is called vertical reservation. Vertical reservation is provided on the basis of social hierarchy. However, horizontal reservation, whereas horizontal reservation, it is provided on the basis of, all right, horizontal reservation is provided on the basis of similar group of people in different stratas. All right, among the different stratas, like for example, Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Avarnas and Adivasis, even among them there are group of people who are similarly characterized, such as women. Women are found in upper strata, women are found in middle strata, women are found in lower strata. Women, on the basis of transgenders, veterans, एक्स सर्विसमैन जिसको बोलते हैं, veterans, ex servicemen, transgender, women, etc. These are found across all stratas. In all stratas they are found, and therefore any reservation extended to these categories, they are called horizontal reservation. So in India right now, the reservation policy has a mix of both vertical as well as horizontal reservation. Yes, Deepak, EWS will be counted in horizontal. Very good. ये prelims का question बन सकता है. That among which of the following categories will you place the economically weaker section reservation? 1, horizontal. 2nd, vertical. A, 1 only. B, 2 only. C, both 1 and 2. And D, neither 1 nor 2. Answer will be the one that talks about horizontal reservation. That's right. Sorry. EWS, economically weaker section. ठीक है. It's not only for general. It's not only for general. In fact, नहीं, एक सेकंड, गलत हो गया. EWS is not horizontal. Let me correct it. If you are applying for EWS, चाहे आप SC हो, चाहे आप ST हो, चाहे आप unreserved हो, चाहे आप OBC हो, if you are contesting in EWS, no other benefit will be extended to you. So it is a separate strata. It is a separate strata or separate reservation that has been extended. तो ये vertical का part होगा. Correct कर लो. EWS is part of vertical. EWS will be the part of vertical, economically weaker section. Vertical होगा. ठीक है? All right, Deepak. It is supposed to be vertical. It's not that EWS within SC, EWS within ST, EWS within OBS. ऐसा नहीं है. EWS में apply कर रहे हो, then you are out of any other consideration. That's why it is going to be vertical. So, what is the problem then? So, problem क्या है? So, from time and again, it has been seen that due to the various attempts by the state government, the question of merit versus benefit comes on the case of reservation. Many times the question of merit versus benefit is coming into picture. So what has been seen that इस केस के अंदर यूपी में कांस्टेबल्स की भर्ती के लिए परीक्षा हुई. इन यूपी कांस्टेबल्स के लिए भर्ती के लिए परीक्षा हुई, and it was found out that there was the general female last candidate. She scored 274 marks. There is another candidate who is from OBC female. She scored 276 marks, and she was out because the cutoff of OBC female went higher. Now the thing is this: 274 marks candidate is entering into the services, 276 marks candidate is out. So the Supreme Court has remarked that under any circumstance merit cannot be compromised. Even if the candidate is from a reserved category, if he or she is making into the unreserved, even if the candidate is from a reserved category and if he or she is ending up into the unreserved cutoff, they should be getting the benefit of unreserved candidate. Otherwise, merit is getting compromised. 276 marks candidate is denied entry and a 274 marks candidate is allowed to enter. That is compromising the merit. All right. So the court said that under any circumstance, UR must not be treated as general. UR must not be treated as general. That is, general is not to be provided a quota. General is not to be provided any kind of quota. General stands for unreserved. That is, even if a reserved category student, even if a reservation or reserved candidate qualifies as unreserved, he must be treated as unreserved. This will ensure merit. This will ensure merit with social upliftment. This will ensure merit with social upliftment. सर जनरल की ज्यादा नहीं जाएगी 276 से, नहीं होता क्या है देखो, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल this is OBC male, this is OBC female, this is SC male, this is SC female, this is ST male, this is ST female, और वैसे ही यहाँ पे एक आ गया जनरल मेल एंड जनरल फीमेल. Now what the state governments have started doing, a candidate who applies in OBC female will be fighting only within the OBC female. A candidate applying in SC female will be fighting only within SC female, and same is the case with ST female and male as well. Now, अगर ये situation ऐसी हुई that a candidate, if he fills a particular category, he or she will be fighting only in that category, इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब है कि general is to be considered as a quota, जो कि गलत है. There is no quota for general in India. The general is to be treated as unreserved, and therefore any candidate, if he or she qualifies in the unreserved category, then they will be accommodated under UR, not in their respective categories. Rakshanda, that's Rakshanda, right? Rakshanda, that's different. जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लिमिट्स दे रखी हैं रिजर्वेशन की, वो तो आपको फॉलो करनी है. अगर वहां पे कहीं मेरिट कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो रही है तो वो सोशल अपलिफ्टमेंट की वजह से कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो रही है. इन अनरिजर्व्ड, alright, so that is what I'm saying, that whenever a person qualifies in unreserved, he is neither a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, he is just equal among all. But if a candidate is selecting from others, then he is taking help of affirmative action, and which is there for social upliftment. कोई नहीं, देखो सिंपल सी बात है, what they are saying is, all right, what they are saying is, if a candidate is applying in a particular category and if that candidate is scoring marks to qualify him to be in unreserved, then he will not be treated as a candidate in the category, he will be treated as a candidate in unreserved. Think about this, if I am a scheduled tribe and I score marks and I come out as all India rank 1, I topped everything, मैंने प्रीलिम्स भी टॉप किया, मेंस भी टॉप किया और मैंने इंटरव्यू भी टॉप करा, एंड आई हैव कम एज रैंक 1, my marks will be counted. I will be treated not as a ST candidate, I will be treated as a UR candidate. सबसे पहले आपको unreserved की merit list बनानी है. जब ये full हो जाएगी, then you will see the remaining candidate according to the category they belong to. This is what the Supreme Court has said. Because earlier what was happening, the meritorious candidate from these categories were getting missed out. Many times it has been seen that the candidates belonging to socially backward classes or caste or tribe, despite having good marks, they were not they were not able to enter into the services. So the Supreme Court has rationalized this system. So Supreme Court said that the vertical and horizontal reservation together has created a lot of confusion among the various government recruitment agencies. So they said that a candidate, if he or she qualifies in the unreserved category, then he or she will not be considered as a candidate from any of the reserved category. Think about this way. That let's say there's an X person, he belonged to the scheduled tribe community, but he scored marks that make him qualify as unreserved candidate. Then he will not be treated as an ST candidate. He will leave his seat for another ST candidate. So इससे social upliftment ensure हो रहा है और इससे merit ensure हो रही है. So merit and social upliftment, they both must be honored in horizontal as well as vertical reservation. In horizontal as well as vertical reservation, you will have to keep in mind both merit as well as social upliftment. If a person belonging to a reserved category, if he qualifies in the unreserved category, he will not to be treated as a candidate. All right, he is not to be treated as a candidate. He is not to be treated as a candidate in his category, rather he will be treated as a candidate in unreserved category. वो अपनी सीट छोड़ देंगे. What about general? General तो कुछ है ही नहीं ना. That's what I am trying to say. The court has made it clear that general is not a category. It is unreserved, open for all. It is to be open category. There is nothing like general. समझो, all right? What about general? General के लिए कुछ नहीं है. There is no general. There is unreserved, open for all. People from any community can make into the UR. सबसे पहले unreserved की list बनेगी. Unreserved full हो गया. अब देखो, अब the next candidate, if he belongs to any particular community, वहां पे उसको set करो. If he does not belong to, he is out of the merit list. It's as simple as that. ठीक है? अगर फिर भी थोड़ी प्रॉब्लम परसिस्ट करती है तो YouTube पे वीडियो आ जाएगा अभी. इनफैक्ट साथ साथ में चल ही रहा है. You can watch it and try to get the basic idea behind the reservation policy of our country. All right. Now, थोड़े बहुत दो तीन there was a very important news that was related to judicial review. Suppose Supreme essay candidate scores 270 marks and the cutoff of general category is 269. So the essay candidate would be counted as UR and the cutoff general would be increased to 270. Bilkul Deepak, bilkul sahi baat, bilkul sahi baat. This is what Supreme Court is saying. All right, let me copy it and share with all of you so that you get a clarity. So suppose SC candidate scores 270 marks and the cutoff of the general is 269. So the SC candidate will be counted as a UR and the cutoff of the unreserved category, generally unreserved, will go up by 270. All right. So the main takeaway from this news is that the Supreme Court has mentioned that the reservation should not compromise merit, number one, and second, it is an instrument of social upliftment. If a meritorious candidate qualifies an unreserved category, he has to be considered as unreserved, and his community will not be counted into the selection criteria. All right, chaliye. Now there was a news related to judicial review जिसके ऊपर सुप्रीम कोर्ट की एक बेंच बैठी थी. All right, Supreme Court bench in the majority decision has provided a clarity on what judicial review is and what judicial review is not. All right, so now we are going to talk about judicial review. बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स होंगे इस ऑब्जर्वेशन के. So basically, you know that the union government has launched a project called Central Vista Project. What is Central Vista Project? What is Central Vista Project? Yes, new parliament, correct. So you know that the union government has initiated a project called Central Vista Project, which is a multi-crore project that involves creating new power corridor in New Delhi, new power corridor in the capital city, creating a new parliament building than the old 93-year-old building. So 93-year-old building ki jagah we will be creating a new power corridor in New Delhi, and this project is known as Central Vista Project. So there was a appeal that was filed in the Supreme Court that this project must be imposed with judicial review because this is a unique project of the government. So appeal was filed before the Supreme Court that this project must be subjected to judicial review because it is a unique project and therefore there is a heightened need. There is heightened need of judicial review in this case. This project involves a huge amount of money, number one, and this project involves changing the landscape of 86.1 acres of land in New Delhi. So appeal was put before the Supreme Court that before this project is launched, why don't the judiciary go for reviewing this project? Do you think intervention of the judiciary would have been right? Do you think that the intervention of judiciary in this project would have been justified? Okay. So the judiciary remarked that judicial review is not a routine activity. It is an exceptional activity which comes into play only when there is a violation of the Constitution. Judiciary has been entrusted with the task of protecting the Constitution. Judiciary has been given the task of protecting and finally interpreting the Constitution. And judicial review is the mechanism through which the judiciary fulfills the task that has been provided to it. So what is the situation is that judicial review is to be invoked only when there is violation of the constitution, not in routine matters. So the judiciary denied that any kind of stay should not be imposed upon the Central Vista project because the government has launched this project under its own capacity as an executive power. There is no violation of the constitution prima facie, and within the ambit of the constitutional powers, the government of the country has all the right to take decisions, even if those decisions result into success or result into failure. Mere apprehension of failure of a government decision cannot be the basis for invoking judicial review. Vanshika says it will result to judicial overreach. It's not going to merely result into judicial overreach, Vanshika. It is going to damage the separation of power. Judicial overreach, ठीक है, certainly it will be, लेकिन it will be so big an overreach that the separation of power will be compromised. The judiciary has to make use of judicial review only to आदित्य ऐसा कोई बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ कॉस्ट है नहीं. कैन यू टेल मी कौन सा बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ कॉस्ट है? Only if the basic structure or any constitutional provision is being violated, you can invoke judicial review, but not in the routine government matters. This is what the Supreme Court has recently remarked. हाँ, constitution लिख रहे थे, फिर ठीक है. All right. So the Supreme Court has refused to treat the Central Vista project as a unique project requiring heightened judicial review. It said that the government is entitled to commit errors or even to succeed or fail. The government is allowed to commit errors, to fail or success, if it is doing so within the ambit of the constitution. Within the ambit of the constitution, the executive or the government has all the power to make decisions. It is very important to understand that judicial review is never meant to check the intention of the government. Judicial review, ये Supreme Court बोल रहा है, judicial review is never meant to enter into the mind of the government or mind of the decision maker to assess the intention. Judicial review is meant only to check that act with respect to the constitution. If it is within the ambit of the constitution, then the court should not intervene. And lastly, the Supreme Court also remarked that, and lastly, the Supreme Court has also remarked that judicial review should be used only in exceptional cases because judicial review otherwise will act as a multiplier to the hurdles that are faced by government projects. There are numerous hurdles that the government projects constantly face, and judiciary should not act as next hurdle by invoking judicial review without there is any substantial violation of the constitution. This is what the judiciary has observed in the recent case of Central Vista project being challenged by someone before the Supreme Court. So, what are the take-home points? Number one, judicial review is an exceptional tool to be invoked only when there is violation of the constitution. It is not a tool to be checking to be used as a check upon the intention of the government. The government is entitled to commit errors or to success or fail if it is doing any or taking any initiative within the ambit of the constitution, and judicial review should not be used as another multiplier, as a hurdle in the normal functioning of the government. ये 5 टेक होम पॉइंट्स हैं जो इस पर्टिकुलर केस से सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने साफ साफ लोगों को बोला है. Also government to include people in planning projects, reveal information to common. ठीक है, ठीक है. All right, Aditya, accepted. Now, what is judicial review? Judicial review, can you tell me which article is the basis of judicial review? That's right, Priyanka, correct. Judicial review is to check the procedure established by law, all right, not the due process of law. So the basis of judicial review का basis है article 13, but there are multiple articles. Yes, article 13 is the basis of judicial review, but there are multiple articles that deal with the judicial review. For example, there is article 32, article 131 to 136, then article 143, article 226, article 145, 246, 251, 251, 254 and 374. These are the various articles that relate to judicial review, but the judicial review has been exclusively found under article 13 clause 2. Any law of the government, if it is against the constitutional provisions, it stands null and void ab initio. Article 13 clause 2. Article 32, writ making powers of the Supreme Court. 226, writ making powers of the High Court, right? So just go through these articles once, all right? You will get an idea about the judicial review. And I already told you that what in this particular judgment the Supreme Court has told what judicial review is not. Judicial review is not a method for delaying the government projects. It's not a method for unwanted intervention of judiciary. It is not a method to assess the mind or the intention of the government behind a particular law. All right, this is what judicial review is not. It is not a routine tool to be invoked. ठीक है? Ayush says how to learn articles and schedules trick wise. देखो सारे आर्टिकल्स याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है. अगर आप एक ट्रिक से छोड़ो, ट्रिक से पहले एक एफर्ट लगाओ. Take out past 20 years questions, 15-year questions, 10-year questions, and see what all articles have been asked, what all schedules have been asked, what all parts have been asked. You will realize that UPSC does not ask questions more than 4-5 parts. तो उन parts को याद कर लो. UPSC schedules कितने schedules हैं Indian Constitution में? How many schedules are there in Indian Constitution? 12. 12 schedule तो अपने आप याद हो जाएंगे. ठीक है? कितने parts हैं? How many parts are there? किसी के 8 पार्ट है, किसी के 12 है, किसी के 22 है. ठीक है, 22 पार्ट्स है. 12 स्केड्यूल है, 22 पार्ट्स है. ये अब 22 पार्ट्स में सारे नहीं याद होते तो प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस उठा के देखो, उसमें देखो कौन कौन से पार्ट्स पूछे हुए हैं, वो याद होने चाहिए. स्केड्यूल 12 है, वो उनका सब्जेक्ट मैटर आपको पता ही है. ठीक है. अब आर्टिकल्स पे यूपीएससी तो जनरली क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछती, लेकिन यू विल रियलाइज कि जो जो इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट्स हैं उनके आर्टिकल्स आपको थोड़े बहुत याद हो जाते हैं. उन्हीं पार्ट्स के आर्टिकल्स याद करने जो एग्जाम में इन्होंने पूछे हुए हैं. सो गो विद going through the previous year questions. That will help you a lot. All right, everyone. So with this, I'll conclude today's lecture. All right. There are a couple of prelims related points more available जो हम next time पे pick up करेंगे, जैसे toy hackathon was there, all right, toy hackathon. Then there was a couple of informatory news about the solitary and stability deal in the Middle East. ठीक है, मिडल ईस्ट की ये जो solitary and stability deal है, इसके साथ हम next class begin करेंगे. We'll cover it there. All right, everyone. So that's all from this week's current affairs class. Suraj, yes, we will do that. We'll do that. We'll do it the next class. All right. Okay, everyone. Thank you. Have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye. All right. Be safe. All right. See you next week. Take care.